All right, I'm going to set the stage for you. You're at your cubicle at work, and you got this report due. And you're just not loving it. You're procrastinating, and you're just staring blankly at the wall. Or you're sitting in your car in traffic, and the timer on your GPS keeps going up from 34 minutes to 38 minutes to 42 minutes because traffic is at a standstill. And you have this daydream. I wish I could just quit what I'm doing, travel, go wherever I want, whenever I want, work whenever I want to do it, and then do that for 3 or 4 years. And when I'm kind of done with that, I'm going to settle on some tropical beach island, live in a bungalow, and contribute to society from there and just have a good time and continue to do what I want. How many of you ever had that daydream? Me? Absolutely. Well, guess what? Today's guest did exactly that. And I'm going to tell you all about it here in just a few minutes. Of course, I got a couple things I want to throw at you. Don't forget Live Rishi. These guys make high-quality CBD product. Really easy for me to talk about it because I use it all the time. Out of Arizona, all organic, third-party tested, all that good stuff. It's not your gas station or even head shop CBD product. Super high quality. And now you can jump on their website, liverishi.com, go all the way to the bottom, click the button, get a free sample. Yep. All you got to do is give them your email address, and they're going to send you an email to order a handful of different things that you can get a free sample. It works out really, really well. Tried it myself. Also, use the code word TABLE when you're ordering product. And, I'm sorry, I changed it up. Table 50. So the new code is Table 50, and that's going to give you, 50% off, half off all the products. So at checkout, half off your complete order. My favorite is the 1,000 milligram tincture. Right now, they're cinnamon flavor. They're coming out with a vanilla bean, and I'm telling you, it's phenomenal. So that's going to hit the market soon. Keep an eye out for that. But we'd love for you to go over and check them out. They got a brand new website, liverishi.com. Use code word TABLE50, and you're looking at 50% off. Speaking of websites, I would love for you to go check mine out, waltzkitchentable.com. This weekend, I will be adding a new section and been on a ton of podcasts lately and in the past, having a great time meeting people. And I'm a guest on, quite a few podcasts, and I'm going to put a page on my website. You can go and check out all those great shows as well. And my blogs, man, I've been just having a great time blogging. They're really short, super short, but never thought of myself as a writer. I've always thought of myself putting out content in an audio form or in person, but truly enjoy writing and love for you to check that out. All right, man, let's get on to this. Welcome to Walt's Kitchen Table, where I feature captivating stories from fascinating people. Travis King, met this dude, and we hit it off right away. He lives down in Mexico on a beach, and his stories, I can't even begin to explain how much fun him and I had on our conversation you're about to hear, and he'll definitely be back on. Also, he wrote a book about all his adventures, and links in the show notes, of course, to his Instagram and his website. He would love for to hear from you. But one of the stories, man, is, and I got the title of the episode for this. He went to, the Deadliest Catch. I don't know if it's still on TV anymore. Probably reruns, right? But I don't know if it's still on. But I used to watch Deadliest Catch up in Alaska. Well, this guy's got a fucking story you're not going to believe, but I'm going to let him tell you all about it. Let's get to it. Oh, man, we're recording. So, Travis, from now on, for this recording, everything you say is going to be on the internet. So careful who you talk shit about.
Wonderful, man. I'm ready for it.
Hey, dude, thanks so much for coming on. Let me hit you up real quick. Did you make your website?
I did. I figured that out myself. Yeah.
Dude, that's fucking, I love your website.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
It's a Wix based website. So like Wix is like the sort of, the platform I use to build it off of. And it honestly doesn't take like a computer whiz to figure it out. It's pretty intuitive. And I don't know, I like doing like graphic design stuff. So I actually had fun with it just because it kind of eventually turns into a graphic design project, like how you want it to look and how you want it to, like the user experience to feel and all that stuff. So yeah, it was fun to put together. Thanks, man.
Yeah, I put mine together through Squarespace, and kind of the same thing. I had such a great time with it, and that's a cool way to say it, that it becomes a graphic design project. I guess that's what it is, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I don't know. I didn't quite know what it was going to look like when I started it. I didn't really even have like a clear image in my head. I just started, like messing around and making it look better and better, and like adding the pieces I wanted. And by the end, I was like, yeah, this looks like a professional author's website. Let's go.
Yeah, dude, it looks great. But the other thing too is you have all the fucking content to put in it.
That's true. Yeah, I've been saving, I guess, like the blogs and like the podcasts I've done and everything else over the last year or so. So like, yeah, when the website came up, I was able to populate all the different pages and with different ideas I have. And yeah, it was nice to see it all come together like that, actually.
Well, shit, even the pictures and all your content with, the traveling you do and that, I mean, that's amazing content. I had a fucking great time going around your website. That was a lot of fun, man. So good job on that. I just wanted to say that it gives a good reputation, a representation of you, dude. So where you at now?
I'm kind of in my first permanent home base that I've had in a while, and it's Puerto Escondido, Mexico. So my girlfriend and I, she's from Mexico City. We've been together for about 3 years. We decided to move here maybe like 10 months into the pandemic. So it was like last October. And yeah, basically we just passed our 1 year anniversary of living in Puerto. And it's on the Oaxacan coast. I think Puerto's like one of those Mexican kind of beach towns that's starting to come up and get a little bit more awareness around the world, and like the digital nomad community and the traveler community at large. But it's still kind of also got that bit of a hidden gem feeling to it. I guess even the name means hidden port, Puerto Escondido, but it's becoming more ironic all the time that like we're not that hidden anymore, and the secret's out, and yeah, you can feel the town is sort of growing a lot. Like every few months, if you come back, you'll see new restaurants and that kind of thing now. But I'm happy to call it home. We bought a piece of land here, and I plan to stay here for a long while.
And then what, like you said, use that as your home base and blow all over the world, but always come back there, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I think for now I'm like really actually focused on staying. Like I traveled for 9+ years, and I was, in that period of time when people are always like, isn't the traveling getting old? I was like, what do you mean? What a crazy question. The world is huge, and the traveling will never get old. Like it's amazing. But like, that experience, that whole stretch, I was just trying to make moving constantly as good as I could make it. And now that I'm trying to stay put and put my roots down and start something here, I'm trying to make staying as good as possible. So yeah, I'm really involved in the community here. I run a bunch of events locally now. I run this open mic night once a week. That's probably the biggest party in Puerto every week. And it goes off. It's like 150 people come and 20 musicians play, and it's super fun. So that's like one of the high moments of my week every week. And yeah, I'm just busy. I'm busy here, like for being somebody who's kind of intentionally unemployed. I'm always actually surprised how much stuff I put on my plate every day. And it's kind of because this little beach town is sort of a land of opportunity. Like whatever you want to make happen here, you can, and the whole community will get behind it. And it's just a really fun place to be and to start to put roots down. So yeah, I'm trying to make the best of staying. I mean, I obviously still travel for the rest of my life, but for right now, I'm just really focused on the projects I have here and what's happening here, and trying to make it as good as possible, really.
Oh, dude, that is such an inspiration. That is awesome, man. And that's part of your book too, right? Or did you write your book before all this? Like, when did your book come out?
So the book I finished kind of right in the heart of like the scariest part of the pandemic, which was actually, like for me, that was the biggest silver lining of when the pandemic hit. I was in Mexico City. My partner and I both worked for a travel company. We worked for Remote Year for years. I'd worked there for almost 4 years. So basically when we got let go and it was, like scary pandemic times and the grocery stores out of toilet paper and all that stuff, I just had a lot of time. So I was in our apartment just like editing. I already had the first draft done, but I really spent like 7 or 8 months just like crunching what I had and, trying to hopefully end up with the the best possible result. You know, like that expression that like you crush a lump of coal and you get a diamond in the end. That's kind of the metaphor that I always had in my mind about the book, is like just make every sentence sing, and you can just do that if you just like really really try and really just like keep processing it and keep getting feedback and keep going with the editing process. So it was nice to have the pandemic to do that, and then I published the book last November, so it's been out for a little bit over a year. But yeah, the book itself, it only covers it covers from when I was like 29 to 33, and now I'm 38. So it's really like the story of when I first left for international travel, and it kind of follows me from being like a scared young puppy with a backpack on to a really seasoned traveler who had been to something like 25 countries or something at that point. And then like just kind of like what it all meant for me, and the tension I had with like, you know, taking this alternative life path, and my family not really being so stoked about it necessarily, and like, and all the stuff that comes with it, right? Like my financial stresses, because like, you know, you can't necessarily work very easily when you're abroad, depending on where you are and the terms of your visa and all that stuff. So it was really just it's like a really honest retelling of those 4 years, everything I thought about, everything that mattered to me, everything that happened, and then like all that other kind of external stuff, and the different tensions that come up with long-term travel between your family, your friends back home, financially, what you know, your own internal thoughts of like, what the hell am I doing with my life? Like, I have a master's degree, and now I'm just like, you know, getting like a free hammock for you know, making shit out of bamboo at this hostel or whatever. You know, like you got to read the book to know all the different little chapters that happened in those 4 years. But it was a lot. It was just a lot of random different things, and it was, for me, the whole thing was just like to keep the adventure going. And I've managed to do that still to this day. So that kind of, I guess, you know, gets us back up to current days. Like I haven't really lived in the U.S. since I left for that trip. That is the start of the book. And now I am a landowner in Oaxaca, and trying to make, you know, more dreams come true here. Just a different sort of version of it, where I get to create a community space here, and make a cool life on the beach here in Puerto.
Yeah. Oh shit, dude. I know a lot of people will be like, oh, that would be amazing, but then hang on a second, they're running up there. Hey, we'll wait for a second.
Smoothie machine.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can't take that long to make a margarita, right?
Wrap it up. Sorry about that. It's one of my favorite little cafes in Puerto.
You were a true, well, not anymore, but you were a true vagabond, like definition of a vagabond.
Yeah, very much so. It didn't, I mean, in my mind, when I first left to travel, it was really just like this really strong realization and sense of like, when am I ever going to make a choice that's like something scary for me, or like something that's going to push me in my life. And at that point, I was 28 when I left for the trip. I'd made every decision based on my resume my whole life, you know, just like what's the next right thing for my professional career, right, or whatever. And then I was like, am I just going to make every decision until I die like that? That seems crazy. I'm almost 30. When do I get to make a decision for myself? So that thought process is really what pushed me out onto that first trip to South America. But then, a few months into that first trip, I was like, this is like day-to-day life-changing. It's like every day, every week, I had things that were happening and learnings and growth that were just really hard to imagine like taking place in some other way. So I got really addicted to, I guess, the experience itself kind of quickly. And then for me, it became like a bank account balance game. And like,
sure.
Where's the next place you can go? Kind of way of just like, I'll do whatever it takes to keep this adventure alive. And I did a lot of different things. Actually, just wrote a blog too called it's called Rich Backpacker, or it's called Poor Backpacker, Rich Forever, and it's about 6 different things that I started doing when I was traveling that still save me money on a day-to-day basis. Just because you start to get really creative, you know, like.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, Poor Backpacker, Rich. What would you say?
Poor Backpacker, Rich Forever. That's the title. It's published on my Medium. I just put it out like a week ago.
Oh, that is awesome, dude. I'll take a look at it when we're done.
There's some good stuff in there. There's some weird ones in there too. Like I rent all my I'm a big reader, not just a writer. I obviously read a lot too as a writer, and I rent like Kindle books or like ebooks to my Kindle from my library back in Milwaukee, and just like little things like that you would, you know, that aren't so obvious that like really have added up to save me money over the last 9 years.
Yeah, but when every little dollar and penny count, that's right.
Exactly.
So what's the weirdest job you ever did? And you're like, why the fuck am I doing this? Come on, man.
That's a great question, man. I mean, there's a lot of weird ones. One that was like very strange and I thought like kind of cool was I ended up in the Philippines at a volunteer camp called Hands On, and it was right after they had like the biggest tsunami come through the island of Leyte, and it really demolished one of their bigger cities in the Philippines called Tacloban. So I was out there like and I think I thought of this one right away because it was definitely like the hardest I worked for free, I think, in my whole life. Like they provided you with like a bunk bed and 3 meals a day. But man, like we were up at like 6 a.m. working till like sunset every day. Even on Saturdays we would work. And it felt like really important, good work because so many properties and buildings in Tacloban were just demolished by the tsunami. So we were out, like I learned how to lay brick walls and how to like spackle with cement when I was there for those couple weeks. And like I remember getting really proud at some point towards the end, the Filipino guys on our work site, who were sort of like the head guys of the crew. Obviously, they were like running the show. They started trusting me with like finishing walls, and they didn't trust any other volunteers. And I'm like, yeah, I got this down. I'm good at laying bricks. Let's go. But it's like one of those things you could like learn in 2 weeks, and all of a sudden you feel like you're a mason out of nowhere. But like it's not an experience I was really looking for or expecting. I think I emailed them, and like 2 days later, I was already in the Philippines, and I emailed them and I was like, hey, do you guys need more volunteers? And I showed up like 2 days later and was waking up every day early as I could and making brick walls. But there's been a lot of weird things. I was a dragon fruit farmer on Maui when I stayed in Hawaii. I was a commercial fisherman in Alaska, which was a weird chapter of the story because I worked for a month straight, and at the end of that story, like I signed a contract without even reading it. I was like, yeah, this is just like the standard contract. He told me, I was like, whatever. I just want to get on a fishing boat and see how this goes. Hopefully make some money. But basically, the contracts that they offer, like first year deckhands, is that you pay for 7% of the gas, you pay for 7% of the food, and in the end, you get 7% of the catch. But this captain I had was like really rusty. He basically hadn't been out on the water for 10 years, so he did a terrible job catching his fish. And at the end of that month on the water, he basically was just like, "Hey, man, you can keep those boots." And I left that month on the boat without a single dollar to my name that I'd earned. And I was like, "All right." So I actually don't even know if you can count that as a job because I didn't make any money. But it was a work experience that I had on the road, and it was a weird one. But yeah, a lot of weird stuff. I was a kayak guide in Alaska and Australia, and all types of different stuff.
Dude, so you work as a commercial fisherman, like on the show Deadliest Catch, for a month.
Yeah.
And you walk out with a fucking pair of boots.
Yep. I'll never forget that line because that's what he said. He was like, "Hey man, the math's probably not going to be in your favor. I don't even want to do the math, and I'm not going to ask you for any money back if it's like you're actually in the negative based on your contract. But you can keep those boots." And I was like, "All right, thanks." Holy
Jesus, dude! Yeah. How was it on that boat? Was it as scary as the TV show promotes it?
So, actually, yeah, it's funny you mentioned Deadliest Catch because the boat on the Deadliest Catch that's called the Time Bandit. It's like a famous boat. It's like a pretty famous, like huge crabbing boat, right? They were one of our tenders. So like in different seasons of the year, they're not actively fishing. They're just taking the catches from the captains that are driving around in smaller boats. So I was on like a 4-person boat. It's called a gill netter, and it's basically like you lay a huge volleyball kind of shaped net behind your boat, but it's like a kilometer long. So your boat's going along, and you're basically, as a captain, you're hoping to just like put a big wall of a net in front of a huge school of salmon that are going to run into it and get their gills stuck. That's why it's called the gill netter. And then when you wind the net back up onto the boat, my job and the other deckhands, Corey and Ricky, were just going to be on the back of the boat, popping the fish out of the net as the net got rolled back in. Some days that's exactly what happened, and it was super exciting. And we'd all be yelling like "money on the deck," and like fish are flopping around everywhere, going crazy, and it was pretty awesome some days. But we also just had like I mentioned some rough moments with the captain where he ran us aground on a something underneath the water that he couldn't see or whatever, on like a sandbar, and then another day he like backed up over the net. That's the thing that we catch the fish with, and he got it all tangled up in the engine, and it spent like 2 days to try to get it untangled. And we also just had bad luck because that season the Game and Fishing Commission in Alaska had they paused salmon fishing for about 10 days, which like my environmental brain is like, I agree with it because basically they really keep like a really strict count of the salmon making it back up the tributaries so that they know future populations will be healthy or whatever. And they like actually count the fishes that come back up. And I guess the numbers were just short. So they like paused fishing for 10 days to let more fish get back up into the tributaries. So during those 10 days, we woke up every day at 6 a.m., heard like an announcement from the AM radio, be like, fishermen in Bristol Bay, please be advised, there'll be no salmon fishing for another 24 hours. Like next announcement will come tomorrow at 6 a.m. And we wake up the next day and get the same announcement. And honestly, those were the weirdest days on the boat because you wake up, you're on a boat all day long. Like you can't get to, like you're out to sea. Like you're not going to touch.
Yeah.
So you're just like out, like floating around on a boat, trying to read books. We actually watched The Deadliest Catch, like on the boat on this little DVD player we had. And like, we're just trying to let the time pass until we could fish again. But yeah, it was a really cool month and a really cool memory, even though, you know, I went there thinking like, I'm going to make $8,000 to $10,000 and then go back and travel the world for a year. And that was because I had met a few guys when I was doing my dive master in Utila who exactly what they did. They would work for 3 months in Alaska, then go travel for 9 months, work for 3 months, travel for 9 months. You could do that forever as long as you are on a pretty good fishing boat that succeeds. But yeah, for me, I was like, yeah, my $8,000 dream was dashed in that one combo with the captain. But then I ended up working as a kayak guide in Alaska, and I sort of salvaged the summer for the next few months and was able to stack a little bit of money up to get myself to move to Hawaii. And yeah, just keep the adventure going. It's like, what do I got to do to buy the next flight and to have enough in my account to not like stress out that, you know, the second day I'm in a new place, but to give myself a little window to figure it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, going back to commercial fishing in Alaska, to reference so people know what we're talking about, Deadliest Catch, right?
Yeah.
Now, is there more fishermen out there that don't make a lot of money, and the ones that are on the TV show are like a very small percentage that they're killing it? Or do most fishermen and deckhands make pretty good money for the season?
I think most make pretty good money for the season. And that's a good question, actually, because that's something like I didn't really realize when I went out there. I kind of thought it was all, I don't know, like about the same, right? I didn't think it really mattered which boat you got on. I just really wanted to get on a boat. And so like this guy, Bill, that gave me the opportunity, I'm still just grateful he gave me an opportunity because I didn't have any experience. And it's obviously like a pretty cool job to end up with for a month or so. But really, there's like the main difference is like fishing on a fishing boat is a lot like fishing as like an old man on the shore, just like casting and hoping. There's a lot of sort of like talent and skill, but luck as well. There's a lot of luck involved.
Yeah.
But if you work, so another job you can do if you go up to Alaska for the summers, you can work on a tender. Like, so I mentioned like the Time Bandit was one of our tenders, and basically that reduces the odds of it being super high or super low, but you can kind of predict what you're going to get paid because you're taking fish from all the captains. So the captains that are doing well, the captains that are doing poorly, you get all of their catch. And so you kind of can, you know, have a little bit more of a consistent idea of like, you're going to make a good amount of money. And then you can also work at the fisheries where they're processing the caught fish. And that just obviously will pay you pretty well. And it's kind of like a standard rate, and you know there will be fish to cut up. But so basically like the highest risk reward is to be on one of the smaller fishing boats out to sea, hoping that you kill it. I think that, you know, I think we caught 10,000 or so pounds of salmon. And that was at the end kind of broke even. It was like it covered our costs of food and gas. But the idea is if you can catch 50, 60, 70,000 pounds of salmon in the same month, you can pay your whole team well and, you know, buy a new boat. So like it's just high risk, high reward if you're the actual fisherman at that part of the, you know, in that part of the line of the process of what happens to get fish in the mail to people all over the world. But if you're on a tender collecting from everybody, it's a little less risky. If you're at the fishery processing the fish, it's even less risky. So I think it kind of depends what you're up for. But I was glad to be on a fishing boat and, you know, I didn't even know what a gill net fishing boat was when I got there. Like I had to have the captain like explain to me. I'm like, so what am I doing, man? I have no idea. I don't even fish in real life. Like I'm just a guy who likes adventure in the ocean. So
I wonder how many of those guys they run into every year, you know, especially because of the TV show. I wonder if a bunch of people come up there to like, I'm here for an adventure, and they just get their ass kicked.
Yeah, it's not easy work. I think you have to be, and like I had my dive master, so I just spent like months on a boat as a diver, which is like a different experience. But I had like a handwritten letter from my captain who I did my dive master with that I think that helped. So I was also like, you know, rescue certified in diving situations and certain things that feel like related to living on a boat and nautical based adventures. So yeah, but I still felt like a super green thumb when I was out there. Like I didn't know what I was doing. But I'm guessing there's people that even have less experience on the ocean or less experience with boats that also try to show up and get those jobs. But yeah, I think it's hard to get in, but once you get in, it's probably hard to leave, especially if you have a good first season, right? Then you're like, man, I made whatever it is, $7,000-8,000. And every year, I think as like a deckhand on most of these boats, your captain increases your percentages. So instead of 7%, you get 8 or 9. And then, yeah, it's probably something you stick around and do for a long time because it's just a big payday for a couple months of work.
Yeah, good money, right? I mean, like you said, though, risk and reward, just like everything else.
Yeah, exactly.
Now,
Exactly.
Now,
I think if I went to try to get a job on a tender boat, because then you have like a big crew that you're with, and it's pretty fun.
now, but the thing is, so the boat you were on, the Time Bandit owned. Is that what you're saying?
No, I think it's like they work together. All the smaller captains are like private, but then they make deals with the bigger boats to deliver their fish. Because it's basically like, if you think of like, our boat was maybe 15 meters by 5 meters or something like that, and we had 4 big holds for salmon, but we could only hold so much salmon. Like, a good fishing day would fill all your holds, really. So then you need some place to put it instead of going all the way back to shore. So then there's like these huge boats out there in the bay too that are the tenders that like the smaller fishermen have contracts or relationships with. So then it's basically like, you go, you empty your holds, they take all your fish into the massive holds that they have on their boats, like the boats that are as big as the Time Bandit, and then our boat's emptied again, and we can go back out to the sea and try to catch more fish. And as soon as our holds are full, we take them back, and that's sort of how I think, those two types of boats kind of work together at sea, because basically
Lost you.
it's open to be fished. You want to be killing it and catching as much as you can. So there's like no time to basically go back to port and like unload your fish there. So you kind of have to unload them out at sea to the different larger boats that are out
Bigger boats. So you're basically renting the space off the Time Bandit to hold your shit.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now with your book, did you write it as you were traveling around, or take notes, or did you sit during the pandemic and like remember all this shit and write it down?
That's a good question. It's weirdly been like one of the more common questions I've gotten about the book, is people like assume that I have some like magic journal where I kept all the little things that happened and then I referenced that while I wrote the book. That's not really what happened. It's more that, like, I don't know. I'm a storyteller. I feel like we're kind of kindred probably in that way, Walt. Like I tell my best life stories to friends and family, and I like telling stories. So like when I was trying to relive those moments and like, remember what happened when I did ayahuasca with the shaman in Colombia, it wasn't like hard to remember what happened because I told that story about doing ayahuasca with the shaman in Colombia 20 times or so. So it was just like retelling the story, but trying to make it as tight as I could, like in written form. And the one thing I would say though is I did like have to reference my iPhone camera roll just to make sure that things were in the right chronological order, like the way that I remembered them was actually accurate. So basically, being able to reference pictures in like the order that I took photos in, and then like using that in tandem with just the stories that I told out loud enough times. When I went to write the book, I didn't really feel like I had many gaps, or I didn't find myself being like, I have no idea what happened when we got to this place. Like I always knew what happened because I either had a few photos of it or I had the story really, like, I was able to retell the story really easily because I'd already told it so many times. So I think that was like a secret lucky thing that happened for me that I didn't really realize was going to happen, were just the fact that I am a storyteller naturally sort of helped me be able to write the book years after the story itself had kind of finished.
My first impression was that as you traveled and did your stuff, you were so in the moment that you weren't taking notes. You were just fucking enjoying it. And you're just living it and having a good time. And all of a sudden you got some downtime. You're laying on the couch or on the beach and you're like, oh shit, I should put that in a book.
Yeah.
And that was my impression of you when I was like researching you. So I just wanted to get that. I didn't imagine you like sitting on the boat in the middle of up in Alaska, like taking notes going, so today I did this and 12:01 I did this. I'm like, he didn't fucking do none of that.
No, I wasn't doing any of that. I think I did like when I first started traveling and I was feeling like, man, this is so profound. And I'm like really feeling myself growing and changing like day to day. That first trip, I had a journal that I started. Like, I think I kept it for maybe a month and a half or something. But then, I just like lost motivation with it. And it was just something I was kind of trying to do just because at the time I was like, man, I want to be able to remember this forever. And I didn't just sort of trust myself that I would just remember it forever because it was so important to me. So I wanted to write some of those details down early on, but then I kind of let that go and I never really picked up journaling as a habit again after that. But yeah, I mean, and then like you said, like it was actually less like me thinking like, oh man, I have enough good stories here to maybe put into a book. But it was like people making that suggestion to me, people being like, hey, you've been traveling for like 3 years now. Like, when are you going to write your book? And I think it's kind of mostly just like a clever compliment to give somebody who's been traveling. But I took it earnestly. I was like, when am I going to write my book? Maybe I should write my book. So, yeah, like that, I kind of let it wash over me like it was just a compliment the first few times somebody said something like that. But then it probably ended up happening 10 times before I actually did start to write the book, where like that suggestion got thrown in my direction. And I was like, I do think I'm a pretty good writer. I do think I have a lot of good stories. I think I have like a pretty, unique voice that I can use in kind of telling these stories, and I'm gonna try. And then it was really, I was at a goal setting retreat for the travel company I worked for, a remote year, and this friend of mine, Marina, led like a visioning exercise where we were meant to imagine our life a year from now, and then we're going to set like small goals so we could get to that vision of ourselves a year in the future. And one of the goals for the year from now was like that I was working on a draft of a book. And then I made a short-term goal of writing at least one chapter worth reading. And so about a week after like verbalizing that goal to the whole group of people we were with, and kind of, once you say something out loud, I feel like, at least for myself, I always have to follow through if I proclaim it to the universe or whatever. 100%. So yeah, it's actually one of the tricks I talk about in the book. It's like how I convinced myself to travel in the first place. It's also how I convinced myself to write this book. But yeah, so I proclaimed it to the universe, and then like a week later I was walking to this co-working space for a remote year, and I had the first line of the book jump in my head, and I still I'll always remember that day I like wrote the first sentence down, and I just like looked at the piece of paper and I was like, oh, here's a start, and it's crazy, it's crazy to think, like 4 years later it was 120,000 words, 333 pages, and like I think what turned out to be a pretty damn good book. So starts awesome. With one sentence, I guess. It's like, that's just, I guess, the moral of that story for me is like, I always think about that day and how weird it felt to write that down. Like, am I kidding myself? Or like, am I really going to write a book? And then, yeah, I did.
Excuse me. So that's how, that's pretty similar on how my project got started.
Nice.
So I'm like you, man. I love fucking sitting around talking to people, telling stories. I love it, dude. Yeah. Love it. I could spend all day. And the reason I call it the kitchen table is because if I came over to your house, you came over to my house, we're going to end up at the table having a few drinks. I'm sober, but, having some drinks and doing our thing and just sitting there talking. And 2:00 in the morning, all of a sudden we're like, fuck, dude, I got to go to bed,
Yeah.
That's how I grew up. In my house, my mom was like the judge, jury, and executioner, and she ran the table. You walk in the house, and there she was sitting in front of the refrigerator, smoking her cigarette, and here's a kitchen table. And I was just thinking about it. When I had a business, and I did a lot of public speaking. But when you're doing public speaking for a business, you're kind of in a box, right? So because you got to talk about entrepreneurship and business, because that's what they're there to talk about. And I would get off the stage and it'd go well or it'd do well, and I'm like, something's missing. I don't know what it is, but there's something just not clicking with me.
Yeah.
And my wife and I haven't talked about this in a while, but my wife and I do these things called surprise date with. My wife's name is Valerie. I call her Val. Surprise date with Val. She'll send me a calendar invite, and there's no details in it. I have fucking no clue. Yeah, I have no clue what we're going to do, right? And we like it because you got to be a yes to life. You just got to go along with it.
Yeah.
And she took me. Have you ever heard of The Moth?
Yeah.
That's our go-to podcast, like when we travel, right?
I love it. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. And you ever hear them do the story slams, right? Where people come and do it. Well, in my hometown, they were having not The Moth, but another company was having a story slam. So the surprise date was we went to the story slam, and she didn't tell me I was telling a story. So we're sitting there, and all of a sudden the lady like calls my wife's name, and she's like, looks at me and she's like, "That's you, bro." And I was like, what? She's like, "You're the one telling the story." I was like, fuck. Hold my beer. I got this,
Yeah.
I didn't even faze me. Man, people are scared of public speaking. I give a shit, dude. I could be walking down the street and somebody could come out and be like, "Hey, come in front of these 500 people and start talking." Gotcha. Okay. So I got in front of about 50 people and told a story of something I did for a rodeo a long time ago. And off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And out of 13 people, I was the only one that got a standing ovation.
Amazing.
And yeah, right. And we were leaving there, and I go, "That's what's fucking missing." When you're talking in front of somebody, you can't have a box around you. For me personally, I just want to have open conversation. Just tell stories. You're talking about a boat. Now we're talking about this. And then we talk about this. And it just fucking goes wherever, right? I'm like, this is it. And that was around Thanksgiving. And at Christmas time, I'm laying in my bed. And I literally sat bolt upright. Everybody's in the kitchen. I went, I ran out. We don't have a kitchen in an apartment, just the way it's set up, but we have a table, right? I sat at the table and just took notes down. And like a month later, this podcast was born. That's it.
Go, man.
Yeah. Just your story reminded me of that, where you're like, I'm just walking along and all, you're like, oh, I got the first line down. I got to write this down. I got to write this down, Yeah. It's cool to talk to somebody that just like throws fucking caution to the wind. Because when I was young, I moved across country just on a fucking whim. And people are like, that's whoa. Now I listen to you and I'm like, this guy fucking went across the world on a whim. Yeah. So it's awesome, dude. Yeah, that's fun hearing your stories, dude. I like them a lot. Man. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, like everybody has that sort of like origin story moment or whatever. That's like the thing that pushes them to make a big change. And then once you get momentum, you could just build on it, like even like, I'm sure like the moment that you thought of like the name of the podcast, right? Then it's like, you have like, it's a little more crystallized. And then you're like, oh, and this is like how I'll describe what the purpose of the podcast is. And like every little thing, or like even the colors of the branding of the website, like every little thing starts to make it feel a little more real and a little more possible. And then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, you're doing an episode, whatever this is with me. And it's a full blown thing. And I think that's, how all projects start. And I think a lot of people that have a little more like trepidation towards chasing something that feels a little scary or far away kind of just like aren't good at seeing that it's like piece by piece. And it's like the big thing at the end feels really intimidating. Like how am I going to get to a successful podcast? And like how you're going to get there is like having that first moment in bed where you're like, this is an idea, and you write it down and you start there. And like every little thing that happened between that moment and this moment, it was a lot of work. But when you really believe in something or you want something to happen, like my book was so much fucking work. It's more like, I didn't even realize how much work it was going to be when I started. I didn't realize all the other aspects, even beyond like writing it, that are involved. Like how do you figure out how to make it a thing in the world that somebody can buy that lives in Japan or whatever? There's a million things to figure out. Right. And then like at the end of it, you get there. It's like one thing at a time that you have to figure out to make sure that it's what you were hoping it would turn out to be in the end. And I'm just really proud that I'm like a dogged, stubborn enough person to kind of like make sure whatever I say I'm gonna do, I do, which is kind of back to that thing I mentioned earlier. Like when I first left on the trip, that's the start of the book, I just started telling people, like I just started telling everybody. I worked at a bar in Milwaukee, and I would just tell everybody, like, I'm going to South America, and I would just tell everybody. And then it's like at some point, I put myself in the situation where I was either going to be somebody who's kind of all talk or whatever, or go to South America. I had two options at that point, and I was like, I'm not going to be somebody who's all talk, so I guess I got to buy this flight. And I was gone,
That's awesome. Now, let me ask you this, because on my project, the podcast, and your project, your book, my motivation obviously is a little selfish, right? Because I enjoy talking with people and getting to know people. And this brings me to people like you. Fuck, dude, I would have never met you, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And some of the motivation was support, like from my wife and my family and stuff. Of course, my wife is like, dude, that's amazing. Keep going. Hey, that's cool. Yeah. Every time, I'd change this, I'd make the bricks on this, and I'd show her. She's like, that's amazing. She'd always give me positive feedback. But then she would give me some shit, no, that's not going to work, and it's constructive criticism. But then you got some people who are like, the fuck are you doing that for? That ain't going to work. You're like, oh, motherfucker. All right. I'll show you it ain't going to work.
Yeah.
So that's motivation for me as well. Do you get motivation from people saying, you ain't never going to write a book? Are you working on that stupid book again? Did you get all that?
Weirdly enough, what that made me think about is, and I tried to write this into the book because I think, I was just trying to be as honest as I could be in the whole story of like how we got here with me and my life. And one of the big things I think that was actually a huge motivator for me was this girl. And we dated when we were 13, 18, and then dated when we were both like in our mid 20s. I really thought it was it. We were, sweethearts. We had we had done everything together, you know, up to that point in our lives. We had the same best friends. We went to the same school, worked at the same summer camp. So when she broke it off with me, basically, that's like something that I realized, like in hindsight and reflection, it was not so much like, I don't know, just I felt like so much of my motivation was just this girl that told me she didn't want to be with me, and it made me want to be like the biggest, best version of myself I could possibly be. So it's funny. I was thinking about that as like, that's where some of my motivation came from for sure. Like if I'm being as honest as I can be with myself, it's definitely a big place where my motivation came from, especially kind of at the start of the trip. I'm like, you know, it's not that I was actively thinking it, but it's like, oh, you don't want to date me? Well, like, I'm gonna go out here and like see the whole damn world and make like this crazy life for myself and show, I don't know, everybody that knows us both that like I'm great. And it was like weirdly a motivating factor for me, I think, looking back. But yeah, and with the book, like with just in writing the book itself, I remember just feeling like I would always trick myself and have this thought of like, even if this is just for my future non-existent grandchildren, it's like worth writing down so that they knew Grandpa was cool. And that was my way to like trick myself past those sort of like what's that called, like imposter syndrome moments that I was having of like, am I really an author? Like, yeah, I've written a couple like successful travel blogs and I think I'm a good writer, but like, come on, man, like who really gives a shit? Like when I was having those thoughts, I would just tell myself like, hey man, you're just gonna write like an ebook for your future grandkids. That's all this is. But then that sort of helped me just kind of get past all those like, you know, doubtful moments of like, how's this gonna turn out? But then I think once I got like a first draft done, I had a bunch of friends read it and everybody came back with really positive feedback and just kind of giving me some ideas on like, yeah, this, you could change this and this, but overall this is amazing, keep it going or whatever. So then at that point, I really actually started becoming proud of it. And I was like, I have something that I really am excited to share with the world when this gets done. But then coupled with that feeling, I also had this like massively nervous feeling because the book is so extremely honest, you know, it's like, and I have parents that are still alive and like I had done drugs and I'd done the sex and I'd done all the things, you know, like, so
sure.
I wrote about it all as honestly as I could. Cause I think I kept having that thought when I was writing it too. It's like all good art, like think about stand-up comedy, you think about writing, you think about it's like, it has to come from a place that's truthful and real. Otherwise the person enjoying the art form can tell you're holding back, you know? So I was like, man, you gotta just go like in the deep end when it comes to honesty on this whole book and just say everything and just like let people judge you if they want to. But in the end, like, just know that like everybody does sex, everybody has drugs, like it's a part of the world. It's just, it's like a normal thing. And I think we've been really like programmed by the baby boomer generation above us to feel that stuff is very taboo and like not okay to talk about. But I'm just trying to be brave and be like, hey man, this is pretty normal. And I'm pretty sure all you baby boomers did drugs and had sex too. So just because you didn't want to talk about it, like I feel okay talking about it. So don't shame me.
Yeah. And it was funny. My wife and I were talking last night. You know, I have a newborn son. He's 10 months old. So I don't know, newborn, but I got a little dude. I call him my little dude. And a guy that I worked with in the bar business and some other shit back in the day, he's got a young son out in Colorado and a family and all that. And he was on Facebook and I saw just an amazing post. They were out in the snow and having a good time. So I DM'd him. I go, dude, we come a long way. Remember the shit we used to do? Now look, we both have beautiful families. And he's like, totally rad, right? And I was like, yep. And Val goes, you guys have history. And I told her a story about we were just fucked up back in Vegas, you know. And she's like, but I gave her some detail. And she's like, okay, you did that. And then next. What you said, it's honesty, right?
Yeah.
I don't have anything to hide, dude. I was a fucking drug addict and I was a fucking alcoholic and okay. What?
Yeah.
Now what? You know, if you're going to judge me, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you like older country music? By any chance?
I like the older country music more than I do, you know, newer country music, and especially where it kind of blends with like bluegrass and folk. Like I love those sort of intersections. So yeah,
there's a song that is a lot of fun. What you reminded you, it popped in my head because what you were saying, you're like the older. My shit just fell apart. Holy shit! God, what the hell? I got to think of the name now. And it was, it's like back in the 60s. It's a country song. about a lady that went in front of the school board because she was wearing a short skirt, and they're like, we have to talk to you about your short skirt. And she's like, hey, I saw you the other day at the bar. I saw you sleeping with that dude, and like just calling people out. And I'm like, of course everybody does that.
Yeah.
What human being doesn't? Why? Because
Yeah.
now what? It's bad to talk about it. Get the fuck out of here. So
Yeah. Are you gonna want to make me feel like shameful because I'm okay enough with myself to talk about it, kind of thing?
Yeah.
Because that's the difference. It's not the difference that like some people do engage in these things and some people don't. It's more the difference is like who's comfortable with like themselves the next day or whatever. You know, like who can still look at it and say like I have like a big spectrum of who I am as a person, and sometimes I'm writing a thesis for a master's degree, and sometimes I'm on acid. like so like it's a spectrum.
hey, that's cool, dude. Hey, you mentioned something. Oh man, you phrased something earlier in the conversation about you didn't want to make choices based on your resume. Dude, what a great statement. I had to go back to that because that is super powerful to me anyway. I think it's great because the societal standard, okay, you get out of high school, you got to go to college, you got to get 2.5 kids, you got to get 2 cars and get the house with the white picket fence and all that shit. Why? I don't want to do that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think the whole thing that makes me think of kind of two things. One is that like I'm pretty keenly aware like how lucky I was to be able to even kind of make that choice, because I was fortunate enough to get a full ride for undergrad because I played soccer, and then I got this fellowship and got my master's degree. I paid for 2 years of like a AmeriCorps education certificate because I did national service work for a couple of years. I don't know if you're familiar with AmeriCorps, but they basically, you volunteer for a year, then you get $5,000 towards higher ed. And I got accepted into this really prestigious program at Marquette that took these ed awards. Basically, it all worked out where like I didn't have debt, and I got 2 different really good degrees without going into debt. So that I know is like part of why I was able to even make that choice. I know a lot of friends. I'm 38, right? And I know a lot of friends about my age were still paying off, educational debts that they've had for over 10 years now, which is just crazy and a really fucked up, broken system, which we can talk about a little bit if you want to. But I think that other thing of just like I don't know, trying to do something different with my life, and like you said, like I really very much so felt like I was handed this blueprint for success that was like the approved path for success in the U.S., and it just never appealed to me. I just was like, so you like it was kind of like back to the baby boomers. It felt like the baby boomers blueprint, but then at the same time I felt like the baby boomers were all like in the suburbs, like yelling at each other over their fences about politics or whatever else, and like not necessarily happy, right? So I'm like, why do you want me to follow your blueprint to success when you ended up like isolated with the fence around yourself and no community around you, and you're not healthy and you're not happy and you feel stressed and you watch 6 hours of news a day? That's what you want me to do? Like, that doesn't seem like a good plan. And no. I also want to see like the world, and I want to experience more. I want to be purposefully uncomfortable. I want to, go to some place where I have a hard time communicating and I don't know where I am. And like, I want to have those experiences. I don't want it to all just be easy or whatever. So yeah, I just remember really having that feeling too. That was like, I don't want to make all these choices just for my career, because life's more than about what you do for work. And I don't want to feel beholden to somebody else's idea of what a successful life looks like, because I want to determine that for myself. And so those two thoughts kind of work together to really like push me out into the world and turn into like, turn these last 10 years into what they were, which I could have never guessed when I was still in grad school, right? I could have never predicted that this is where I'd be when I'm 38. Not a chance.
So when you just said that society's idea of the way I should live, right? You mentioned something like that.
Yeah.
When I say I don't give a fuck, or I got zero fucks to give, or I'll tell you, fuck off. That's what I mean. I don't care what society thinks the way I should live. I'm living the way I want to live. Yeah. That's it. I'm not gonna, my wife and I are comfortable, and people are like, why do you live like that? Because I want to.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. I think like having your personal freedoms is really like more of the key to happiness than people sort of realize. And then also people don't necessarily realize where their freedoms are lacking if they've never kind of experienced something that feels even more freeing, right? So that's something about living in this town, specifically living in Puerto, that like comes up in conversation a lot, actually, which I find like I don't necessarily imagine it being brought into conversations a lot. That's, you know, if you're not living in some sort of like hippie beach town, but people here all the time are like, man, I love being here because I feel free. I feel like I can do whatever I want with my life when I'm here. And like that feeling is so valuable and so powerful, and really hard to give back up once you experience it. Same kind of thing with like, you know, the remote work revolution, like getting the freedom back of your own schedule and like deciding when you want to work, like when you feel activated in your mind and you feel like you're physically and mentally and emotionally ready to work. When you get that feeling back, and then there's no way you can give it back up and be like, actually, I'll work exactly 9 to 5 for somebody else. There's no way you can go back to that model of working, because it's like, it's just so good to have control of it yourself. So I think a lot of things like just, culturally and societally are changing in that direction of people really like valuing their agency, valuing their freedoms, and kind of like building a life that puts those things in the forefront. I know, at least for me, it's like, I just want to be able to set my alarm for whenever I want every morning, and then do what I want when that alarm goes off until I go to bed that night. And the things that I want to do are often like looking out for future me, or, you know, building something that's like for the future. And that's something that's hopefully going to be something I'm proud of someday. But some of the days also doing things that I feel good about, that I want to go do, you know, take my dog to the beach or work out or whatever, or play music or whatever. And just like crafting a life that you feel proud of and that you're excited about every day, versus just sort of like sleepwalking through it to pay the bills. And I think that goes back to sort of like the debt slavery society thing that I mentioned, with like people still being in debt from getting educated or whatever, and like the whole American dream concept that's kind of falling apart.
Well, I think that because I do want to touch base on the college debt thing. I think that's one of the biggest fucking scams in the world.
Me too.
And we were driving somewhere, and this is how I explained it, and I thought it was pretty good. There was a billboard that said, increase your pay by 10% or whatever, you know, with this degree. I was like,
some
okay.
Online university,
Whatever it is, right? So you make $15 an hour. You're going to go in debt for, maybe it's a local thing, so it's maybe $125,000.
Yeah.
And you're making $16.70.
Yeah.
Dude, I went to public school in upstate New York, and I can do that math, dude.
Yeah, it's gonna only take you 200 years to pay off that debt. That's, you know.
Now, but to play devil's advocate, to play devil's advocate on that debt. So say that Susie has a $280 college debt payment every month. Mm-hmm. If they wipe that out, what's she going to do with that 280? Right now, is she going to spend it at? She's going to go 3 more times a week at Starbucks and get a $12 coffee. But you see what I mean? Like, I think that a lot of, not that I want that money to be where it's going, because we all know where it's going.
Yeah.
But how many people do you think would be truly creative with that extra money in their pocket?
That's the part that's hard to really know, because we haven't really given people the chance, right? Like,
I believe, and I want to believe that most people will do good. Oh shit, man, I can put this toward my credit card debt. I can buy a new car that I've been needing for 10 years to get me back and forth to work, whatever, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's what I would hope, but
and in general, the one thing I would say, and like, not to get into the politics of it too much, but I always think one thing that gets lost on people about the economy is that it's a what's it called? Like when two animals help each other or whatever, or it's like an ecosystem, right? Where like the more, like if you put more money into the average, you know, lower income or middle class person's pocket, they're likely just gonna like spend it. You know what I mean? So like, I always think that like that's something that we get lost kind of like in the bigger conversations like around economics and stuff. But like, it's hard for me to debate this in like the way that I think about it, like on like academic levels. Like, if more people have more money to spend, they will spend more money, and then like the economy is pumped with that extra money, and like more people are like upgrading their cars or buying new appliances for the kitchen or shoes or whatever it is. So I've always thought it's so weird that like the most wealthy people want to restrict like minimum wage still. Like, our minimum wage has been the same, I think, since 2007 or 2002 or something crazy. I actually looked this up for like a blog I was writing the other day. It's actually fucking wild that our it's still $7.25. It's been that way for like almost 20 years. But like, I just think if you make that even like $12.25, the rich people will still be rich, and then those extra $5 per hour that people are earning, they're going to spend it on like some other business or some other thing that they want that will make, just
Well,
the economy full of money, right? Like that's how I
Right.
envision it, at least, right?
Well, then America is built on capitalism, right? So if they have that extra $5-8 an hour, what, like you said, what are they going to spend it on? Getting their nails done, buying more expensive shoes. Some of the more I hate to use the word responsible people, like I said, would okay, my little 2000 or 1999 Nissan's fucking dead. With this extra money, I can afford to buy a nicer car, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But the thing is, I was working years ago. I was working with a guy. He's like, I need more money. I said, for what? He goes, I can't pay my bills. And I go, well, live below your means.
Yeah.
Right. And he goes, well, if I only had X amount of dollars more a month, I'd be okay. And I go, okay. His name is Brad. I go, okay, Brad. So what happens in 6 months? You come to me and go, okay, I need more money.
Yeah.
Because like what you said, if he got $6,000 more a month, he's going to spend it. He's going to be right back.
Yeah.
Right. And he's going to be right back to where he was before. And in 4 months, he's going to be like, I don't have any money. So it's like, you got to have some kind of management, right?
And that's the mindset thing. I think it's like a very like American mindset, or like, I don't know, just like a developed world mindset to be like, I'll live on a credit card and I'll figure it out later. And like, to me, the thing you always said of like, the thing you just said of like living within your means, that's been my like MO. It's like, if I can't afford this thing, I'm not going to assume that later I'll hit the lotto and then be able to afford it. I'm just going to do what I can to afford the current life that I'm living.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like right now, I'm living like a very like actually extreme version of that, because I'm, like I mentioned, like purposely unemployed. I write a little bit that pays me. I play music a little bit that pays me. I try to sell my book that pays me, a little bit. Like I have these little things that are bringing some money into my world every week and month. But basically what I'm mostly doing right now is like living extremely in an extremely chill way when it comes to spending money. Like I think I spend $800 or less a month probably right now, because my rent is super low. Being where I live in Mexico, I don't go out very much, or when I do go out, it's to play music, and then I'm making money and coming home with more money than I left the house with in the first place. Right. I cook black beans every week. It's like I just do things that are like to keep my cost of living below what my means are, so that like even if I'm only making $1,000 a month or something with all these different projects that I have going on while I work on some bigger long-term projects, then I'm still fine. I'm still coming up. And I think that's just like part of the whole conversation around like quality of life and living within your means that gets lost a lot. Because even like, I always think of this example, like my little sister lives in California, she lives in San Francisco, and one day my dad was like, man, you'll never bet what Claire makes, like my little sister. And I was like, I don't, like, do you want to just tell me? I don't really care, but like I know it's a lot. She lives in San Francisco, but like I think she makes like in the triple digits, right? Like she's earned it. She's worked for the same company for a while, and she's done a good job. So now she's like making in the triple digits. But like when I was actually had a real job at Remote Year and was living in all these economies where the cost of living was super low and I could save my pennies and stuff, I'm pretty sure at the end of the year, I might have even saved more than Claire. Even if I was only making like $40,000 a year, right, right. Oh, no. If I only spent $15,000, then I'm net 20 or something. And living in San Francisco, I'm pretty sure Claire spends a lot of money just living in San Francisco. Like an apple is $9 or whatever. So,
well, yeah. The thing is, though, I live in New Jersey, which is fucking crazy expensive, right? Mm-hmm. And my coworkers will be like, "Oh man, if I could go to Nebraska and make this kind of money, I'd be doing well." I go, do you have any concept of economy?
Yeah, it's not going to pay you the same in Nebraska.
Yeah, and they're like, well, man, if I could make this money, but the housing is so much cheaper. I go, okay, so the bread man here in Jersey makes $120,000 a year because bread is $2.49 a loaf. Yeah. In Nebraska, the bread guy makes 40 grand a year because the bread is 59 cents a loaf. Come on, dude. You're 40 years old and you can't figure this out? Yeah. It's amazing when I get to in conversation with people, it doesn't
that haven't clicked those. Yeah.
I'm like, how did you get to 40 years old? But how they do it is, unlike yourself, they make decisions upon their resume. Oh, because when I was young, my mom's like, I grew up in a very small farming town, and she's like, "You gotta get out of here. The world's a big place. This place will always be here. Travel the world, see things, do whatever, and then make decisions." I'm like, "All right, see ya." And I just left, went to Colorado, started working for Coca-Cola, but the mindset was still put in 25 years, collect a retirement, then get another job. And, that was the mindset back then. So I got caught up in that, which I'm grateful for because it's benefited very well, very well. And, but I can see your point, the digital nomad, which is a phrase I love. Yeah. And you're doing what you want when you want, but you're still contributing to society and you're still making an impact with business and creating things and accomplishing things. That can, because of technology. Look at us, dude. You're down in fucking Mexico and I'm staring at you pretty much in real time.
Yeah.
Isn't that nuts? Right?
Yeah, it's wild. And honestly, that is like the thing that I think is going to be super interesting to pay attention to in the next 5-10 years, just because honestly, like the way it works internationally and like different, governments across the world, like people have different opinions of how this should work. Like Estonia tried to make a digital nomad visa actually for people that want to be able to like fluidly pass borders and not worry about their work. But some companies will like make you get a work visa. Some governments in certain countries will like want a work visa if you're going to work remotely. Other people just kind of chalk it up to like, well, hey, you're not taking local people's jobs because you're working for a company in the US and you're just doing your job from here, from our beach in Mexico or whatever. So it doesn't really matter. But basically, it's like everybody has kind of like, it's like the dust is still settling around like this whole thing of like, can you go somewhere and work? Can you do it effectively? Can you still be productive and contribute to a company or to a project or something? And then like, if the answer is yes, which I'm very much kind of leaning in that direction because I've been doing it successfully for a few years, and I think a lot more of the world is figuring it out, and a lot of the old guard is becoming a little more receptive too, because like, this does work, and we don't have to pay for AC or chairs anymore. So, fuck the office, right? Like, let's just let people work wherever they want, and we'll see them on the Zoom call. And if you kind of agree with that model and you lean into that future, then there really is this like massive cheat code where like you can live in Mexico, pay rent that I pay, which is like, less than $200 a month, and make $100,000 if you work for a company from San Francisco.
Right.
So really at that point, it does become like with that thing you mentioned about the economy, where like the economies aren't the same. Like you're making San Francisco economy money, but you're paying quality of life and day-to-day life, Oaxacan Mexico pesos for black beans. Like you can destroy, like, you can like do 2 years and retire. Like really, I think there's going to be a lot of weird stuff that starts happening. And I'm curious to see what's going to happen with the future, because I'm kind of like, in the middle of all the weirdness around remote work and those types of like thinking and projects and stuff. But it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Yeah,
but and like you said, okay, use your example. You're working for a tech company, say in San Francisco. You're on the beach in Mexico. Mexico don't give a shit about your visa because now you're pumping thousands of dollars a month into their economy.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's not a local it's a world economy now. Has been for how many years, right? So the money's flowing no matter what, right? But go ahead.
I was going to say, like, that is true, and that's how I've always thought of it. I'm like, of course they would want us to come and like, freely spend our money. Like, I'm at a cafe contributing to the local economy right now, and like, it does feel like those are the kind of people you would want there to, fill up the hotels and fill up and just spend their money and then go, but like eventually go back to their country having left a lot of money behind in that country they visited. But for some reason, the Mexican government specifically lately has really been like restricting visa days. So like I used to always, like the first maybe 4 or 5 times I came to Mexico, you just get stamped in at the border for 180 days. So basically half a year if you want to stay. So It really it was super stress free. It's like you cross the border, you're in Mexico, you got a half a year. And like, I would never even plan it. I was like, I figure I'm going to leave this country at some point in the next 6 months anyway, and then I'll get a new 180 days when I come back and it's all good. But now if you like follow the, digital nomad groups from Mexico City or Puerto or wherever you are in Mexico, there's so many stories of people getting stamped in for like 10 days or 20 days or less.
Shit.
And this this time when I just came back, they gave me 95 days, which I had to like make a whole story about, and I had like fake hotel reservations that I canceled like in time before I had to pay them and stuff, just so I could make it look like I'm an actual traveler and not somebody that's kind of living here working remotely, because I think that's actually what the government now doesn't want. But it's really hard to know why and like what their thinking is and why are they limiting people's days. So now I'm I didn't think it was such a concern before, but now I'm pursuing temporary residency with a lawyer that I've been meeting with now to try to help me figure out what I need to do to get that in line, because I don't want my status here to be sketchy. I want to be able to like be allowed to live in Mexico.
Right.
But for a long time as a tourist, that just felt like a totally chill thing that the government was happy to have us here spending our money, like you said. But now they have like a change of heart. So it's kind of weird. And those are, again, like things you can't predict. And like we'll just, continue to see how all this stuff starts to play out, and like, one thing impacting another, and like the final kind of the way that the dust all settles, like it's going to be curious to see.
Well, the thing is, what's it all boil down to? Money.
Yeah, I think the money.
Who's getting what money? Because politicians are like strippers, dude. They love you and want your company until the money runs out, and then they're like, "Fuck you, dude, get out."
Yeah. We're good for you.
Next, all right, dude, we're gonna. Hey, where's the coolest place you've been?
That's a good question, man. I love Mexico. Like, I really like when I started my travels. I don't think I thought that like Mexico would end up being this place that I just find so enchanting, but obviously like I put my flag in the ground here and I plan to be here for a while, so I really do love Mexico. And then I guess I'll just go continent by continent. I love Colombia. I think Colombia is an awesome country to spend a month in if you got the time. I love Bolivia. Bolivia is one of those ones that like I just didn't know what to expect. Like when I closed my eyes and pictured Bolivia before I went, nothing happened in my brain. But then I got there and it's like fucking wild. There's like there's like the salt flats where like it's just like a desert of salt with cactuses and just like flamingos standing in purple lakes. Like that's a real thing that fucking exists in Bolivia. It's just totally wild. It feels like you're on another planet. But then there's also like the Amazon there that you can go like into the jungle and be like in the deep Amazon. So basically I think Bolivia is a really special place that isn't as high on people's radars as it should be. And then other spots I love South Africa. Like I've gotten to spend maybe 3 or 4 months total now in my life in South Africa. And it's just one of those places that you feel grateful every day you wake up there because it's just gorgeous and the culture is popping. And it's just like cool. It's an amazing place, especially Cape Town. Cape Town is just like one of the best cities in the whole world for sure.
Now, how did you choose to go where you were going to go next? You know?
I mean, so for the first 4 years of my trip, it was really like that bank balance survival game of like, where can I go that I think like won't be too expensive, where I can kind of like, keep living in this really kind of frugal, backpacker budget mindset. And then when I ran out of money, it was like, okay, now where can I go and like actually maybe work, which is how I ended up doing Alaska as a fisherman and then Hawaii as a farmer. And then I got a work visa for Australia because I found out from people that like that's something you can do up until the age of 31. So I guess for anybody out there listening too, like it's a really great option, but you can't apply for it after you turn 31. I guess for some reason that's like sort of just like an arbitrary age cutoff that New Zealand, I think Ireland, Australia, I think a lot of those, there's a lot of countries that we have like work reciprocity with, and you can apply for a visa. It costs a couple $100, but then it basically grants you the status that you can go to Australia or wherever you apply for the visa and just be a legally working Australian member sort of the economy. And if you get a job in Australia, which is, harder done than said, easier done. Like you come up quick because people like the minimum wage in Australia is like $20. So, like basically, I just kept kind of chasing like what I could do to keep the adventure alive, like I mentioned earlier. And then finally, I got kicked out of Australia because I broke the terms of my visa and I worked past the 1 year they gave me. I went back and kind of worked illegally for all the bosses that I really liked and who liked me enough to like pay me illegally.
I was going to ask you how many jobs you had on fucking under the table.
Yeah, I mean, there it was 3. I was working at a hostel, I was working at a cafe, and I was working as a kayak guide, and I loved all 3 of my jobs, and all 3 of the bosses I had a great relationship with. So they were like, "Yo, man, we'll just put cash in an envelope for you at the trailer. Like, it's not a big deal." Right. So I did that for 5-6 months, and then what got me is I left to go visit a buddy in Thailand and like the Caribbean or the Thai islands. And then when I came back and I was trying to get just back into Australia on my tourist visa that I had, they somehow put it together that I might be working, I think based on my in and out record. And then they confiscated my phone. I'll always remember that. Like the scary lady at immigration was like, "We need to confiscate your phone. It's a matter of national security." I was like, "That seems intense," but okay, here's my phone. And yeah, and then like
don't go through the pictures, man. Just don't look at the pictures.
Yeah. Don't go that way. Don't scroll that way. No, it was, and then it was like a 5-hour interrogation with some super scary immigration, officer, and then they put me in jail for 2 days, and then they flew me on a flight back to Asia. And I was kicked out of the country, but that whole story is in the book. It's one of the kind of climaxes of the book, and so basically, like to go back to your original question of like how was I deciding where to go? It was often just like, where do I think I can like go up financially instead of down? That will allow me to keep kind of living this life abroad that I've fallen in love with or whatever. And and then like the book sort of ends with like my money running out, because when I was in Asia, the best thing I could do to kind of save my money was volunteer. So I have like a lot of interesting volunteer opportunities, kind of like the one I mentioned, laying bricks in the Philippines. But I worked at a hostel in Indonesia. I worked on like a organic farm outside of Chiang Mai in Thailand, basically just trying to do things to keep my costs low and to make more stories or whatever. But even doing that, it's like the $4,000 or $5,000 I had when I showed up in Asia, I was like, certainly not going to last me forever. So then when I started applying for like other. But then I was like, I have all this travel experience. I also have previous group leading experience working with kids and stuff like that. So then I was like, maybe I can work for a travel company somehow. And I just started sending cold emails to different travel companies and different opportunities in the travel sector. And like, stumbled ass over tea kettle into this job at Remote Year. Just lucky as hell, man, to be honest. Like, I mean, I still remember like just sending this cold email, and this guy Jesse wrote me back, and at the time they were about a 5-person team that had just launched this travel company, but it was a damn good idea. They were like one of the very first travel companies to be like, hey, remote work is a thing now. Why don't we try to take groups of people to remote work together around the world? And that's
pretty cool.
Super cool. So I got hooked up with those guys, and I got put in charge of the 3rd program. So basically, it was like I was given a group of 70 people, a fellow program leader, this friend of mine named Sam Tom, and the two of us led that group of 70 people around the world for a whole year. For like 1 month at a time, we were in a certain city. Then the next month we moved to the next city. Then the next month we moved to the next city. And there was no really like
70 people.
70 people, man. It was the hardest I think I've ever worked. It was.
So, I mean, are these like super wealthy people that just took a year off and traveled? Like, why? How did you get 70 people to haul around like that?
So it was like 70 people. I mean, they obviously had like varying ranges of wealth, but most of them were just kind of like normal people that worked. And Remote Year at the time was around $2,000 a month. So if you live in New York, it's about what the rent is, right? Yeah. And instead, you get to live in this apartment in Buenos Aires for a month, and then you get to live in this apartment in La Paz, Bolivia.
So they were working during that time.
Exactly. So they were. It was like really kind of early on, still in like the digital nomad. This is what, like 20. What would it be, like 15 or something? So it's 2016. So still like pretty like, that many years ago, even digital nomadism and remote work was still kind of like newish. So it was a lot of people like being the first person at their company to convince their boss to let them try. A lot of people that had to have those conversations and break down a lot of the barriers that were still there. And then, that was kind of what Remote Year was really helping people to do. Was just convince their bosses that this will work and this will be okay, and you'll still get productive work out of me, and I'll still be a part of the team. And then people got to live like the coolest year of their life, and it was
pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So you were basically a fucking high-end concierge.
More or less, yeah.
Was it a good job? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, man. I mean, it was a great job. I had a really good time. It was like I mentioned, it was probably the most I'd ever worked in my life for a year, because it also had like no off button, like if somebody was having an issue with, getting in trouble with the local authorities at midnight, like they texted me, there was nobody else they could text. So there was just a lot of different things that came up. And then just, in general, like the emotional and physical and relationship, like well-being of 70 adults, like especially when the whole idea is that we're doing this in community, people feeling like they hadn't found their place in the community yet, or that, the best friend that they had at the beginning of the year, now it's month 6 and you're not really close with them anymore and you feel a little lost, and like all of those things, like multiply each person's issues that they might be having while traveling the world by 70 people, and then is basically on us to figure out, me and Sam. And it was a lot. And it was great. And I really feel like I did like my absolute best at stepping up to the challenge and giving my best to the community and the best to the people on RY3. And in the end, I was really proud. Like we had a really close community that still like, considers each other a big travel family. And, I've had all the ups and downs together, and that's how you grow close. And I just got like, I'm going to be at Sam, who I just mentioned, her wedding in April. And yeah, we just got another update from somebody in that community that she's pregnant today, like on our big group WhatsApp chat. So everybody's like celebrating like we're going to have like another baby in our travel family kind of thing. And so we're still super close. You go through a year around the world. It's hard not to feel connected to those people. So
I wonder how many people thought Sam was a man.
Sam's a lady. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sam,
no, I just
Samantha.
But when you were talking Sam and I, I assumed a man.
You're picturing a guy, yeah, no.
Yeah. It's just kind of fun to recognize that,
Yeah.
So then you met a girl, wrote a book, and now you live in Mexico.
That's right. That's it.
Dude, amazing. Fucking amazing. Yeah. I do have a question about the book though. You self-publish?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a whole other topic we can get into if you want, because I had like I mentioned, like I had to figure out every little thing by myself to get to the point where the book was out in the world. And I think, one of the main benefits of working with a publisher is they figure out a lot of those things for you, and you just can kind of focus on making sure, your craft as a writer is as tight as possible and that you have that part dialed in. But it was kind of fun to take on the rest of it as like with this entrepreneurial spirit of like, I'm going to figure this shit out and I'll be my own marketing team and I'll be my own book design, like my cover design. That was actually one of those things I was really proud of. Everybody told me that I should get like a proper book cover artist because like that's such an important thing. And then like, when I showed it to like anybody that said it to me, I was like, well, what do you think about this? Like what I'm working on. Everybody's like, oh, that's amazing. Who did that? And I was like, I did that shit actually. Like this, it's like this is the like one of the very first drafts I made. And I fucking love it. I was like, I'm not going to pay somebody $1,000 to do something I like less than this, which is how I imagine this turning out if I go that direction. So
people that aren't watching, they're just listening. Are you diving off something on the cover?
Yeah. So this was me in Belize diving off of like, this basically like a wooden platform that has a very famous bar. It's on this island called Key and there's like a really famous bar sort of at the end of the island, and people go there party. They drink these like super strong green cocktails that, two of them, and you kind of forget what the rest of your afternoon is going to be. And it's like this kind of famous backpacker hole on Key that's super fun. And one of my friends, Rachel, took this photo that day, and I never thought it'd be a book cover, but it worked out. It worked out.
Dude, awesome stories, man. And we won't tell anymore because I want people to jump on your Instagram and obviously get your book. Do me a favor, dude. Tell everybody where the best place to find you. Because, people listening, they're not seeing our tags here.
The scroll? Yeah. Right on. So maybe the easiest one to remember would just be the website that you mentioned at the top of the show, Walt, but it's just traviswking.com. It's pretty easy. It's just my name, traviswking.com. And then you can also just search Not That Anyone Asked Travel Memoir. That's the name of the book, Not That Anyone Asked, on Google, and that'll probably bring you right to the Amazon page. But yeah, the book, like you mentioned, the self-publishing thing, I went that direction in the end because, I don't know, I wanted to be in charge of the whole thing, and I didn't want anybody to tell me to take this out or put this in, and I just wanted to like have it be like a pure reflection of me. And so it ended up on Amazon. It kind of bugs me that Bezos gets a little richer every time somebody buys my book, but in the end, like Amazon has the best infrastructure for this. Like if I want my book to be able to go all over the world and end up on Kindles and in people's like, even the physical copy ships to 10 different countries around the world. So basically, Amazon is the best option for self-publishing authors. So I went that route. So that's where you can find it. But you can also find me on Instagram. I'm Travis King Travels at Instagram. And then you can find my book page linked to my personal bio at Travis King Travels on there. But it should hopefully be pretty easy to find. Yeah.
And then, of course, I'll have all that, all your tags in the show notes, and I'll tag you on everything, obviously, so people can just click on that. But
awesome. Thanks,
dude. I could sit and talk to you and listen to you for hours, man.
Yeah, I feel the same, man. You got a great vibe about you.
Dude, these travel stories. I'm not even. We're not even. I can imagine we're not even scratching the surface, dude.
I'd say we're scratching, but we're just at the top of the iceberg.
Oh, that's amazing. But
it's all in here, man. It's all in here. So if you like the scratch,
I got to get the book, dude. I got to get it because I got to check it out. Jump on it. And I'll do all my other stuff. I'll do all my other stuff in my intro and exit. But We're going to get out of here, dude. We got to shut it down, but hang tight. All right?
Well, thanks again for having me, Walt. Appreciate you, man.
Travis, that was a pleasure, my friend. Hang on just 1 second.
Thanks, dude. No.
Man, dude, talk about living life to the fullest. What a great time I had with Travis. And again, he's definitely going to be back on. But would love for you to jump in the show notes, his website and his Instagram. Check out his book. You want some great detail on his adventures? Check it out, man. You can buy it, get it through, again, his Instagram, say hello, and his website. Links in the show notes. All right, man, I'm going to get you out of here because I know you got shit to do. But don't forget, Live Rishi. These guys make high-quality CBD product. Jump over there, liverishi.com. Use the code word TABLE50, and you're looking at 50% off. And I would love for you to jump onto my website, waltskitchentable.com, and click around. See what you think, and would love for you to say hello as well. So remember, when I say have a great day, the motherfucker is silent. Till next time.